Hey, man.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Good. So how's your Friday?
It's good. Well, I'm spending most of the day here in the store in Boca Raton, actually.
Eh,
So it's going really well. It's nice to get out of the office some and get back into these stores. I feel it's about time.
Definitely. So you've kind of adapted, I guess, to the new normal for now, which is lots of Zoom calls, probably lots of
Yes.
of video, lots of emails, phone calls.
I I feel like that yeah, I feel like I can be an expert when it comes to Zoom or Microsoft Teams by the end of the month here. It's good, but it's been quite fun over the last few days. I've had Zoom meetings with Davidoff and Leva, and this morning, it was really fun. We had one with Alec Bradley, so it was fun to see Alan and kind of yuck it up a bit. It was good.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, thank you for coming on today. I know you reached out, and I was like, Brad's watching, so. I was like, it's always fun to see who's watching and who's interacting. And, for me, these are just little fun, casual conversations to kind of get to know different people in the industry and figure out what's going on with them right now. So I'm treating it like a trade show, basically. You kind of walk around the trade show floor and you have individual conversations and you move on instead of it being 5 or 10 minutes with 10,000 things going on. It's just me and you and whoever's, tuning in.
Yeah, I found it kind of fascinating. It's been really fun to see an industry. I've been in this business for what, I don't know, almost 20 years, which is kind of crazy when I think about it. 20 years. But you look at it and sometimes you go, it's exciting to see that we've kind of embraced the technology aspect of what's going on.
Like,
Um,
finally.
yeah, we're getting it, right? I mean, and we've realized that, hey, business can, even this business, this great business of brick and mortar and the .com side and everything can kind of come together and hell, we can do this, it's awesome.
Definitely. Well, I mean, what I wanted to do today is kind of get a little bit of your backstory. I know we've yet to do a story on you for tobacco business, so this is kind of be like a
Oh man.
precursor. Well, this would be a little bit of a precursor to maybe to a bigger story to come. But I wanted to kind of get to know a little bit more about you and your story. And I know, like you said, you've been in the industry for 2 decades, which is a long time, and you've worked with some big companies, and you've right now you're in charge of like a retail store that has a footprint, all over the U.S. So, uh,
Yeah, I like to tell people it's been a good run.
well, that makes it sound like it's final. It's like not over
No,
yet.
it's not final at all for sure, but it's been quite a journey. I went into this business right after college with Craig Cass up in Tinderbox in Charlotte. And they tell a funny interview story about a kid that came in flip flops and a golf pullover, but they don't really give you the backstory, which is I was asked to come in that way as I was hitting some golf balls and things like that. Which, thank goodness, my golf game is much better today than it was back then. But no, it's been fun. I spent almost 5 years with him, and it was a great experience. I got to really know industry people, which was quite fun, and really wasn't, in love with any brand, because you're in the retail side, the worst, one of the things you don't want to fall in love with your inventory, right? You want it
Right.
all to sell and you want to give it respect in the brick and mortar space. And so I spent that time and then spent a little brief time with Rocky, which was quite fun. I mean, those guys are Rocky and Nish and Bullock and all those guys are amazing people. And I just got an opportunity one day to kind of come over to Otatus, and I started carrying a bag, hitting the storefronts and doing the deal. I got to really learn. I really got to learn a lot about brick and mortar and how to trigger things and really work for your customer, right? That's the biggest thing that I see today is from a manufacturing side, really working for your customer, but at the same time having respect for your own business. Don't give it all away. And so, yeah, I worked my way through Otatus, and I've had various roles, you know, from a regional out in the Midwest to vice president of sales. And then I spent my last part with Otatus as head of marketing, which was a lot of fun, actually. Sales are great. You know, they're numbers driven. You've always got a metrics at the end of it. You know if you did great, you know if you did bad. It's what it is. In marketing, it's different because you try to build a brand, and you know what? You're building a brand from concept. And what was so great about it is that it wasn't just one person. Like Altus has got a great marketing team, and you know when you can draw from ideas of people. And to people of different experience, you know, I come from that very sales driven side, you know, so to be able to create and have fun and spring something to life. But I think one of the most rewarding things is when you walk into a store and you see it on a shelf and you're like, holy man, this is real. Did it just happen, kind of thing? And so, yeah, we were able to do some fun stuff there. And, you know, my career trajectory really kind of took off because, you know, Javier Estadas came over, Rob Norris came over, obviously from Imperial. And, you know, those guys really have been great supporters of mine. I owe Javier a lot of what I've been doing in this business because he took a young kid off the street and threw him through the process, right? And really kind of developed. And, you know, he came in one day and was like, hey, I need you to do this. You know, I need you to go run this retail business. And, you know, it really is. It's a passion of mine. Retail's a great space. I have tremendous respect for brick and mortar retailers. And so, yeah, I end up here, you know, 20 stores later, which is, it's going from one to saying, oh man, now I have 20 responsibilities. And then we have another 7 that from naming rights partners to, our franchise partners. You know, we have a franchise partner in Arizona, one in Puerto Rico, which we're extremely excited about. And then we have some of our naming right partners in Chicago and Boynton Beach. So with the Smoke Inn with Abe and the guys over at Casa and Countryside, and our sister naming rights down in Miami, Casa de Montecristo as well. So it's fun. It's interesting to see those guys and kind of pick their brains as well, you know.
And it's funny because you started out in retail, which obviously kind of gave you a better understanding. It seems like those people that start off in retail have a completely, like you said, a deeper understanding of how the industry works and how you build a brand. Because I know like Michael Herklotz, for example, started off in retail. And I think that helped him, like, you know, understand a little bit more of how to pull a brand together, how to pull the team together, you know, what the issues are for a retailer. So I just think it's interesting that you had your start too in the retail area.
Yeah, you know, I think it gives you some great insight into your customer, to the consumer. It really does. You know, people would come in and they're like, what do you like, or what do you want, what do you smoke, and it's interesting how people describe cigars, right? I mean, some people like, oh, I like full body and I like this. And, you know, I remember somebody coming in there one day in the store and like, oh, I love rich cigars. And they got a Romeo Reserva Real. And, you know, you're like, well, it's interesting how our palates are, right? Because, you know, us that kind of consume these on a daily basis, we would probably say, well, that's more of a mild medium for me, you know, and more of a creamy finish and things like that. But, yeah, it really gives you insight of what they're looking for. And I'll tell you, fast forward now to my role today, and, you know, the industry has changed so much, right? I mean, when you think about the knowledge that the consumer has today, I mean, from you know, cigar aficionado to half wheel to cigar coop to tobacco biz. I mean, there's knowledge galore, and the internet has just opened it all up for us from that consumer seeking, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got to really be on your A game, your story game when you're putting it together, because there's so many great makers right now in this business. I mean, I can't really tell you that there's a bad cigar on the market. There's a ton of different flavor profiles, but man, we're making this industry should be so proud of itself because we're just making great product, which is great for everybody.
And like when you talked about like how consumers talk about cigars now, like when they walk into a store, I mean, I think that's an interesting topic to touch on because, yesterday Shia Goldberg and I were doing this and we were talking about how, ratings and how ratings are just, they have different sides to them. Some people care about the numerical rating. Other people want more of the notes, the tasting notes and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
in your experience, like how are consumers like talking about cigars now? Are they talking about it in terms of, oh, I saw this cigar in, this magazine and it got a 91, or from this website it got a 91? Or are they talking about it more in terms of, your palate, the flavor palette? Like I'm looking for a rich cigar, or, I like Connecticut cigars or a mild. How are they talking about cigars now?
Well, I think it's a good mixture, really. You do have that loyalist, like you've got that ratings loyalist that says, I got to have something that's, 90 or above, or I must have the #1 cigar of the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be that, and that's great. I think that, when people come in and they've got their top 25 of the year, no matter whether it's whose list it is, right? They've got that rating sheet and they're like, I got to try these. It is great for retail. It really is, because you know what? The consumer that today is buying that, if you were to have looked over, a few years ago and see that consumer as they mature as your customer, right? They might smoke one thing and be one-dimensional, but these lists and these ratings allow people to really get out of their comfort zone and explore, which is what the cigar business is, right? But then you get what's very interesting. You're seeing a subset of consumer come in today and go, man, I've read about this new wrapper from Nicaragua, or this new, fermentation process.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, nobody would have talked about the fermentation process. For me, for example, right, I'm smoking this H. Upman by AJ Fernandez. Talk about a guy in AJ Fernandez that has, really taken the growing process, the aging process,
Mm-hmm.
and the blending process, and has very unique flavor profiles. It's fun because we always used to think that Nicaragua, oh my gosh, it's going to be strong, or what, you know what I mean? But we've shown, between some great makers in Nicaragua, that you can really navigate through the flavor profile from strength and everything. So it's fun, but it's nice to see the consumer and the diversity of cigars they're trying.
And like you said, I mean, the consumer today is I think much more sophisticated in the way that they do want to be educated, and it's not just about other stuff. They want to know about, like you said, the fermentation, or they want to see where the cigars are made and how they're made. I know, like when we do stories in tobacco business, and we do those kind of behind the scenes stories where we go into a factory or even just a field and showed you the growing process. Those stories kind of trend a little bit higher than just your regular, just here's a new cigar, here's the wrapper, filler, blah, 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 blah. They want to see that process, that behind the scenes stuff.
Well, I mean, as you know, a lot of our stores, we just opened our 11th bar, in conjunction with our cigar stores, right? So, as a retailer that is driven to experience, that's our main, that's our goal. We have a tremendous selection, no doubt about it. But the experience is what we're trying to drive. And what you're seeing today is to your point, people come in and it just like they read an article, they see a live you in a tobacco field, they're engaged. Consumers today also want to know about pairings.
Exactly.
They come into the store and they're like, hey, what goes with this, right? I was just having that conversation with Alan this morning, Alec Bradley, because they have a bunch of different Scotch companies that they kind of mingled with
Mm-hmm.
to pair. And I'm going, man, we could feature your cigar and that Scotch partner on our menu, and let's do a fun pairing section for a month and educate people on why this Scotch have you chosen for this cigar. and people are really getting into flights of bourbon or flights of
Right.
scotch, and then they want to pair that product with it. So I think it's not only lending itself, to fields and education like that. It's going, can we do next? Like and whether it's chocolates, I mean, or coffee even, or even spirits. It's really opened up a lot.
Yeah, and I know. I mean, we played around with that. This year we acquired Cigars and Leisure magazine. So we've
Mm-hmm.
been able to play around a little bit with the consumer side, which we hadn't been able to have access to before. And so we played around with the pairing idea, like what are some outside of just your basic, normal pairings? What are some different things you can kind of pair a cigar with? So we've kind of been basing it on like quarantine life for the last month. So we did a fun little article about how to pair. A lot of people have like a Nintendo Switch, for example, like a game, and the basic principles of pairing, like never pair a cigar that's going to overpower the drink and vice versa. So doing that with like video games, and it was funny because it was like one of those like stories that we just said, oh, we'll just try it out. Like, what do we have to lose at this point? And people actually like
Exactly.
flocked to it. They liked that idea just because it was a different type of pairing idea. But it's fun just to kind of give new life to cigars or bring people to think about cigars in a new way. Like you said, with interesting pairings and just kind of going through your inventory sometimes, maybe as a retailer, and just figuring out how to get a cigar in front of somebody.
Yeah, I tell you, I can't think of, I know that this moment in time that we're going through has kind of gotten everybody, off their pace or off their game a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, as a retailer, it has really been eye-opening for me, to come in, and it really gives you an opportunity to dive in. You don't realize your day-to-day business, your day-to-day life gets in the way of business a lot.
Exactly.
And it really does. And, because some days you're spent putting out fires, and that's brutal.
Mm-hmm.
But some days you're just wanting to look at the data, and this slight tweak of downtime, I would challenge all brick and mortar retailers to get out there and really look at the inside of your humidor. Take some of the data that you have, and they use this time to really have a cleansing oasis, right? And
Exactly.
say it, and look at that and say, you know what, man, I haven't had that in a while, or if you're doing curbside business like many of our stores, put a curbside pack together that's focused
That's
on
a great
things that
idea.
that may not be your top 10 sellers today. It might be your bottom 5 sellers today, but it's something that people just have kind of left out of their rotation. It's not that they're bad, it's that they've just kind of, something new's come out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you haven't had something in 3 years or smoked something in 2 years, by the way, it's new.
I know. Yeah, me and the Perdomos were having this conversation the other day. They were sitting in their humongous humidor with all their different facings, and I was like, "There's no way a consumer would have smoked through everything in your, in your inventory. Even if it's a different facing, a different size, it's a different experience. So it's like encourage people, and they were like, yeah, like encourage people to kind of like move through the different inventory, the different sizes, because it's just a different experience. You might not have a great experience with a smaller size of a cigar, but you might get more flavor from that, Lancero size, that longer size that kind of is just going to smoke a lot longer.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it's like people sometimes, you can have the same exact cigar, you can really have the same exact blend, right? But you can box press it and you can not, and there's a different flavor distinction between those two when you do that. I mean, whether how the air pulls through it or how that is, it does change the complexity of the product. And it's interesting in an era of cigars where I don't think you can make one big enough, because I'm seeing 8x80s and 90s and all this kind of stuff. It's really interesting. As somebody, I'm gravitating the other way. I'm going back into the ring gauges of like 50 and 52 and 46, and trying smaller stuff and things that I thought, man, I really like. But when I go get something that's a little smaller in ring gauge or smaller in format, I'm like, man, this is even better. It's
No.
better than what I thought it would be, Yeah, challenge, even, it's great to even challenge our customers, because you'll see it if you sit in a store long enough or walk around a humidor long enough. And the guy that comes in the store every day, he knows exactly where his product is on your shelf. And as we consumers and ourselves, we get tunnel vision, right? We
Mm-hmm.
come in, we go out. And not only looking at the products that you have today and trying to look at the performance and shuffling those, look at your placement. I've spent the
Exactly.
last 2 days in the Boca Humidor, and I've been literally on my hands and knees in there, digging through shelves, doing this stuff. It's quite fun. I love it. I put this jacket on just for this interview. I've not been wearing this all day. So, but it was amazing to me is that we've completely switched where placement in the humidor was. So when this store reopens fully in hopefully a couple weeks, people are going to come in and going to be like, where's my cigar? Where's my cigar? I'm like, well, it's here, but look what else is in its place, right?
Right.
So it's you got to make the best of these times.
And like, going off of that subject of merchandising, I know when I go into the JR Cigar Store in Burlington, one of the areas that I always look at is the trending now section, because they have like a
Yeah,
nice trending now, and you can always
yeah,
find like whatever buzzworthy cigars there. But my eye, like you enter, it's like off to the right, I think, and it's like my eye always like goes over there. So I might go like do like a walk around because the counter's right in the middle. So I always kind of like look at how things are, and then I like that trending idea. And I know that PCA did a great article the other day when they said, like top 24, top 25 lists are great, but as a retailer, make your own list too, and
yeah,
maybe you can merchandise around that idea of, having like the Cigar Aficionado top 25, Half Wheel Consensus top whatever, 20 cigars, and then hours. Like here's what sold the most here. If you cut it down to like 10. I think that's a great, like you said, it's a great idea just to kind of go through your inventory, see what you have, and figure out ways to kind of get people to notice maybe things that they just overlook. Because we do get tunnel vision. I know people love their certain brands, and they're dedicated to those brands sometimes, and they get stuck on just that brand, and they feel bad about, going outside of that brand, and like they're betraying the that brand when they try something different. But it's I think trying new stuff is just the only way you're going to really stretch your palate and really get to know
yeah.
the industry.
Well, and I think too, you make a good point about like the trending now and stuff, and listen, when you walk into any retail shop, but hopefully when you walk into a Casa de Montecristo, or if you're in North Carolina in the Burlington or Selma, and you walk into the JR outlet concept that we have, what's trending is coming out of our employees. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
obviously there's new products that we focus on that are trending to let people know about. But think about it. When you walk in the store, we've got 3 or 4 or 6 staff members. Those guys are all experts, and they're there to guide you through an experience. If you can give them a little bit of a hint about what you want, they can guide you in a direction to get you a great product, and get you a variety. I remember in my Altadas USA days, when I was traveling, I was selling this cigars. It was like I said, you know what? I don't need to be anybody's go-to. I just want to be in their rotation. Because if you
Right.
see consumers today, the average consumers going in and they're buying 5 to 10 cigars at a time, and they're not all the same.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal was always, how do you educate the consumer to be in the rotation? And that's what our staff members want to do. We want you to have an experience through that. And these guys are experts. So if they like something and they're like-minded to you, you're probably going to like it too. And that's the model there in Burlington and Selma is so different for us, because we really focus on the box purchase. We focus on the value side of the business, and we focus on the bulk buying, right? I mean, you go in there and you expect a deal, So it's been for me, that's been an interesting one because I used to call on those stores because I lived in Charlotte. So now to see the transformation that I've been able to put a little bit of stamp on in my short tenure here at Casa, it's been really fun. I have some great staff in all my stores, but when the guys in North Carolina, I grew up with, if you could say that, as a guy with this business and this company. So it's great to see all of them continuously servicing our consumers out there.
I see our friend Raph says, "What are you drinking?"
Well, me, I'm a Fiji guy, but that's just because that's how we roll here at Casa de Montecristo Boca.
I mean, yeah. So on your daily basis, I mean, you look after basically a lot of stores at one time. So how do you like how do you give each one, because each one is like a child, and if you neglect any one of them, then you kind of they kind of go off here, and you have to pull them back in. So how do you give your time and attention to all the stores, all the managers, and whatever else needs your hands on?
I took a very I'm a very hands-on, like I like to get involved. I cannot be trapped or confined to our office. That doesn't work for me. And it doesn't work for me in a lot of ways because, if you don't understand your consumer and listening to the people coming in your front door, you'll never relate to them as a business. And that doesn't matter if you're in the cigar business. It's just in general, the retail space. If you're just trying to collect revenues and not actually have boots on the ground, it's total fail, total miss, right? So when I came into this, I remember my first my first 3 weeks of working, I went to every single store in 3 weeks. I mean, I knew the Southwest pilot by name that used to leave out of Fort Lauderdale. And it was great experience for me because I really got to go in, and I think if you can never cast opinion if you don't see it for yourself. And so that was one of the biggest things I did very quickly, was to get into all the stores, I knew quite a bit of the managers, obviously because of Otadas, but I didn't know every one of them, right? So to kind of meet them, to evaluate our store space, where our stores are, our merchandising, and then to kind of come back and see what could we change or what do we need to do different? How can we be better? Because I think that is the biggest thing, is how are we going to be better at what we do? And you know what? How do you cover all these stores? Me being a single person, you have a great team. That's how you do it. And you give your team the autonomy to be successful. I have four really good market managers. We divided the business up into 4 different markets. And so we have a market manager assigned in Texas and North Carolina area, up in the New Jersey, New York area, and then we've got a guy here in Florida. And they travel to the stores, they meet with the GMs, they have regular conference calls with their teams. I mean, and then I have a really great retail director. She is constantly challenging me as I tend to be a little shoot from the hip. I'm more of an emotional guy. I like to. I'll throw it against the wall and see if it sticks, where she kind of brings me down a little bit. And then, having a good, we just brought in a new marketing, a young lady from Blooming Brands. She comes from the Outback and Bonefish Group to really help me with our marketing. She's done just a fantastic job, as she's really focused on the field marketing. And I want to be known as the best in the market that I'm in. I don't need to, I'd love to tell you I'd be the best retailer in the country, but I just want to be the best at where I have stores. And by doing that, organically, we will be one of the top up there in this business. But it all goes back to really having a great team. And it also goes back to your commitment to being in the store. I travel to every store at least once a quarter. And then we've got some projects, so I really have a soft spot for Nashville. I love Nashville, and our store in the Gulch we're going from a 2,700 square foot store to under construction to 6,000 square feet.
Wow.
Yeah, it's and we're doing it right now in the midst of all of this,
Obviously,
and
like a challenge.
yeah, and selfishly enough, I really like those guys over at Crown Heads. I know Wes is on here now, so shout out to him. But Mike Conder and John Huber, we've been friends a long time, and so it's fun to get up there and see those guys. And we've got some exciting projects coming out with them. We didn't quite want to release during the pandemic, so we pushed back a bit. We got some stuff exclusive for the business from those guys. We've got some really cool projects coming out with my father here in the next 2 weeks, actually. So we're pretty pumped about that. And we're working with Otadas USA to do some fun, like Añejados and Añejo projects that are going to be store exclusives, kind of unbanded, like aged cedar room projects that we can put in the stores for some amazing brands that they have as well and flavor profiles. So it's a transitional time period, but we continue to work. That's what's the most amazing thing. I don't think we've missed a beat, really.
That's great.
We just completed our bar in Paramus. It was such a crazy time for us. We literally got our CO. We could open, and 12 hours later, we haven't poured one drink and we're closed. It's and that store actually just reopened early last week for curbside. So it's nice to see it starting to get back, but it's nowhere near what it's going to be. I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful space now.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good time to talk about the times that we are in now and how that presents a challenge to all retailers. How, like, we see that the president and we see that our governors are all kind of introducing plans to basically get us back to some type of normal. It's kind of like the new normal, obviously. Yeah. I mean, are you having to do the same as for all the Casa de Montecristos? Are y'all having to come up with plans to social distance once things kind of do let up and people can come back into the stores? I mean, what's going on with that?
Yeah, one of the things that I've put together is I've put what we're calling kind of a reopening task force.
Okay.
I mean, when you have 20 plus stores, again, you can't do it by yourself. So we put together this task force where we're looking at every government order, every executive order that comes through, we're reading it. But you know what? We said, let's have a plan of our own.
All right.
And let's have a phased plan to where we can go from curbside business to grab and go business to social distancing business to, hey, at some point we will reopen strong and we'll reopen 100%. What does that look like? And so that's what we've put together. Over the last several weeks, we've spent some time putting plans into action. I have to say, we've even it's nice to, our support from Tabacalera USA has been tremendous. Because our holding company has a lot of outreach. We've even been in contact with EnviroSafe people, infectious disease people, and we've written a process using professionals, not us as rookies and sitting around as retailers. We've actually contracted and hired ways of working for safe reentry, safe opening, and then put together a lot of processes to where, yeah, it's going to look a little different when you come in the next several months. And it may be that way for a few months to go, but we've kind of had a little fun with it too. I've ordered logoed masks for all the stores. So, it's going to walk in, it's going to be a cool mask with a Casa logo or a JR Outlet logo. I mean, we're going to the black gloves. We're going to have sanitizer at the entry of every humidor. We've done 6 feet apart markers for all the floors. We've put kind of etiquette rules together so that we can post for all our consumers to see. And it's going to show the actions that we're taking. I mean, I'm having sanitation, the sanitizing, professional cleaning crews come in every single morning and sanitize the business. And we've got practices going throughout the day, making sure that we're not to the point where we're setting bells going off to go clean the door handles, but our goal is every so many hours, we want to wipe every door handle, every fixture, everything that we're doing. Transactional based things like credit card terminals and stuff, we want to keep them clean.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of our prep for what's to come. And, we'll be ready. We'll be ready to open like that in a few days, actually. We're pretty much got everything sourced and together to do that. But as far as what does business look like now, I can tell you that I'm impressed with the agility that we've been able to have as a business. Because when you have as many stores as we have, I mean, sometimes it's like driving the Titanic, right? I mean, it's a big ship to move. And with our GMs have really stayed engaged, which has been huge for us. Our market managers have stayed engaged to the business, and we've been able to really be very agile, going from what was a fully operational business to a staged close to now a staging of reopening, which we're doing. We have 16 stores that are open right now. 4 or 5 are running at a grab and go. You can come in. The rest are running at curbside. But, you think about curbside, what do you need for that? Like you still have to check IDs. I mean, we're in a very regulated business, right? I mean, we still got to card people and we have to show that we've done it, So working with WeCard to get the applications on our iPads, to be able to take credit card scanners. I mean, buying hotspots to make sure that we could go out in the parking lot a little further. We've done a lot of things very quickly to respond to this, and I think that's why we're in a very good position. But it wouldn't be possible without my employees, my staff. I mean, our store staffs. Some of them are displaced right now, and we've been trying to do as much as possible as we can to stay engaged with those team members, as it's just a very it's an emotional and trying time for those folks, and for us as well. But our GMs and our leads in our stores have really stayed, and myself and Javier even has stayed really engaged through conference calls for our staff. And I think seeing their morale and seeing their excitement to get back has made it very easy for us to be agile, and really made it a purpose, But one of the things that was really fascinating that we've done is, we're not a .com business, right? We're a brick and mortar business, but
Right.
how do you talk to your customer in this time? We've been able to put together social media postings that say, Casa's still here, Casa will deliver. We're very fortunate to have our team in Tampa because our Tampa Bush team has been absolutely instrumental. I mean, we've launched a home delivery process. Now, obviously, it's home delivery by mail, but we are shipping products every day to our Casa consumers, and we're targeting them through social media. We're leaving, targeting them through emails to tell them, hey, whatever you need, we have. And we're doing things like it wouldn't cost them anything to come to the store, right? So we're doing free shipping on everything.
Wow.
Just as if they were coming to the store. And we've been able to put together, working with some really great manufacturing partners, some fun deals too, like we're working with Davidoff right now to do a virtual Kloss Kellner tour for our team. I've been working with Rocky, which has been quite fun. He wants to do something kind of virtual and interesting for our consumers. We actually did a social distancing pairing here in Boca the other night, which was quite fun. A little Facebook Live. We put together a cocktail pairing and had it paired with the H. Upman Herman's batch. And it's funny to see this stuff because you're like, man, we've never done this before. And you look up the next day and you got 3,000 people who have seen this thing. You're going, man, all right, this is awesome. So
yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought, if there's anything good that came out of this, maybe it forced all of us in the industry to kind of rethink how we can engage with, like you said, consumers and keep business going without just kind of sitting here and waiting for things to kind of clear up. It seems that a lot of sides of the business, and I've seen a lot of manufacturers really step up and do some great fun things with, Tabacalera USA and Altadis being one of them. I mean, the Cigar Life thing has been going on now where they're doing different interviews. I know they've asked me to be on it Sunday, so we'll see how that goes. But you
Yeah, I
know,
know the marathon, right?
yeah. So the marathon. I mean, I'm flattered to be asked. No,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's fun to see a lot of the companies, like I said, kind of come out of their shells a little bit because you know when you really get into the cigar industry, I think, and you get to know the people in it. It's not it's not the people standing in the corner smoking a cigar, you know, amongst themselves. It's a really social industry with a lot of fun personalities. People like to have fun. They like to laugh. You know, they like to learn. They like, but they won't want your traditional like boring ways of learning. They don't want a webinar, you know, like
Yeah,
the old
exactly.
school. They want something fun like this, like you said, like a pairing seminar, like getting the different companies to get involved. So,
Yeah,
um,
you know, you have to. You know, I think that because listen, we all work together. Right? When you look at this ecosystem of the cigar industry, you know, yeah, you know, there's some differencing opinions and things like that. You know, hey, that's what it'll be, right? But when it comes down and the rubber meets the road, we're all in this together. And I think what has been really interesting is reaching out to some manufacturing partners and being creative, you know, keeping the consumer, because the customer is key to all of us, no matter whether you're a manufacturer or retailer. You know, you want to still be driving the sense of, hey, let me tell them what's new. You know, look, there's new products coming out right now, by the way,
right.
which is insane. You know, you think, oh my goodness, how can I do this? But you know what? I can do this is the big key. And you know, it's been quite fun actually. You have to find the positive in whatever you do, you know. And I see the guys over at Otadas, and I tell you, using some of the resources that we have from our sister.com company, you know, they're good at what they do. And for them to be able to activate and trigger for the Otadas USA marketing team, um, showing them, hey, let's go live, let's do these events, and this marathon on Sunday. I mean, I think Rafa might be trying to go for 6 hours of
I think
continuous
he is.
content. I mean, you know, I told him, I said, man, you're really struggling. You asked me to do this. I was like, no. So yeah, it's fun to see our innovation, not only on my company, but everybody. You know, I mean, I saw Nish Patel the other night, which is hilarious, making his signature cocktail on his patio. I mean, one, I was jealous. His swimming pool looks Olympic size, but I don't know about that.
So what would you say to, you know, a smaller, you know, mom and pop kind of brick and mortar store right now who's maybe doesn't have a big, you know, the big corporate support, or they don't feel like they have like the big budget right now and they're just trying to get by? Like, what would you say for them? Like, where can they start in kind of getting ready to, like you said, maybe adapt to this new normal that we're getting ready to go through, or just maybe even prepare for, you know, another unexpected disruption in the future? Because hopefully this kind of teaches everybody to kind of be prepared for anything
Anything.
now.
Yeah. You know, I would tell them, I would tell any brick and mortar in this business to right now, you know, engage through your social presence. You know, you might not be savvy enough to get on here and do this, what we're doing today, right? However, you are savvy enough to take a picture. Get on there and let people know, let your customers, your followers know that you're still here, you're going to be there, and that, you know what, business is going to be a little different when we reopen. But as soon as you can and are comfortable, you should be doing curbside business. Whatever states should allow, you know what? I promise you, your customer will be so happy to pull up in front of your store and take a bag from you and exchange it for money. I promise you. They'll do it. And you've got to, you know, it's very easy in these times to look back and say, oh my goodness, you know, just to kind of really, to roll your head around it. But don't get in your store. Make sure, like, I have not missed a day in the office since this started. And I have been engaged with this every single day since March 13th. And I think for me, going to the office and then coming here to Boca, since it is right in my hometown, has kept me sane. But it's also given me a reason to kind of look at it and give me a valuation for the business. There's so many opportunities right now to be looking at that and saying, man, what would I want to do better? And by the way, while there's nobody in your store, take a look at your store and say, hey, you know what? I can go grab a paintbrush. Home Depot's still open. When this does reopen, maybe when I come back, it was gray today. Maybe it's off-white tomorrow, right? And it's bright and it's clean and it's fresh. And I can tell you that it doesn't take a lot of money to do little things like that, to kind of walk in and touch up your store. And hey, look, we've all seen it where we've got that poster that's torn on the corner. Rip it down, call your manufacturer and say, hey, I actually need a couple more brand posters. I promise you they got this stuff in their warehouse, and they'll be glad to send it to you. So when people come back in, it's fresh, it looks different, it's exciting, and people will come back, because let me tell you, there is a lot of stir crazy people out there.
Yes. And just going off of that, I mean, you've worked on both sides of the industry, from the retail to the manufacturing side. So, I mean, I know a lot of manufacturers are trying to help right now too, and just figuring out a way, they don't want to seem like out of touch and just offer like a break on a deal or whatever. They want to help.
Yeah.
In your opinion, like, since you are so familiar with both sides of this issue, what should the manufacturers be thinking or doing right now, and thinking basically going into the summer? Because I know the summer too is usually our industry is a big time of year, because everything kind of builds up to the summer trade show, the PCA trade show. People are used to saving up their budgets to go to the show, to do the deals, and everything right now is just like up in the air, and that's just nobody's fault. It's just what we're living through.
Yeah, it's what
like,
we're going
what can
through.
manufacturers be doing without having maybe the normal I would call it marketing cycle that they're used to?
Yeah, well, I think that one of the biggest things is you got to understand something. As a manufacturer, you can offer the best deal in the world to a brick and mortar customer, or to any customer in this business, right? But here's the deal. You can offer as much margin as you want. If you have nobody to buy that margin's not realized, right? So my challenge would be to manufacturers is to really focus on sell out. Focus on engaging the retailer on the sellout aspects of what we're doing. Whether that is, I know Otadas USA is putting together some packs that are they're curbside packs that are kind of pre-packed, that a retailer can add a few components to, and the consumer gets a great deal. I know that Nat Sherman did this with doing bags and matches, and I saw last night where the guys at Crown Heads, they launched the bulb, a retail program to kind of engage consumers to keep going. I think that's the biggest thing for manufacturers today is for those guys to say, how can I help you sell out the money that you've got invested in your store today? Because remember, listen, you don't know, a guy could have just gotten in $100,000 worth of product, and the next day it's like, close the door, right? Mm-hmm. So they're going to be struggling a bit to really look. Invoices are still due, right? Rents are still due. Right. So anything you can do as this new normal of opening of curbside and grab and go to really focus on sell out. And I promise you, if you don't focus on the sell in so much, that'll come organically. If people remember who helped them. I still remember 20 years ago when I can tell you a story about an Ashton cigar and why it pairs with this. That's 20 years ago, because of the influence that support that manufacturer gave me as a young punk in Craig Cass's store, right? I can still recite that today, and I promise you that 10 years from now, 5 years from now, manufacturers that are in this pandemic crisis situation, they're going to remember the manufacturers that came to them to help them versus the ones that tried to just give them a deal, because that deal's no good if you can't turn the product.
And like you said, the idea of selling out and getting products off the shelf is a great mentality to have, because sometimes you just don't, you're not working in that mentality, and you're not working in that thought process. And maybe putting, like, I know a lot of people like your idea of putting together a bag, of different cigars that you might, different combinations. And I saw some retailers do that, and they posted online, and it's just, like you said, curbside thing, and just pick what kind of, like, choose your own adventure. I saw one retailer say, like, these are my favorite, this is the Cigar Aficionado top, some of their top 25. This is my favorite, and here's, one of the other owners' favorites, even if it's something like that. give people options to move through the inventory and focus on what you have and figure out a way to kind of get through that and get it out the
Yeah.
door.
I mean, 100%. You know, you've got to really be creative. And you know what? In a time where cash flow is restricted, right? I mean, everybody's cash flow is restricted right now, and so in that times, look, what you do to support your local consumer, whether it's, you know what, I'm going to have I'm going to do 35% off these mixed bags of cigars that I have. Remember, that's 35% you took off, but the cash that you got is real conversion in your store, right? And that you just keep going. And listen, the consumer in 2 or 3 months is not going to expect that you keep giving sampler bags at 35% off. You know, they understand what you're going through as well. And I'm a firm believer they want to help you. You know, I see customers come in every day into this store, and they're jonesing to get back to normal and just be able to sit down. But end of the day, they're coming here every day buying 1 or 2 cigars because they want us to still be here.
Exactly.
They want to support your customer base wants to support you. And when all this is over, the best thank you that we can give our customer is to have one hell of an appreciation party. You know, that's what we all need to be doing. And that is when you can go tap that manufacturer and say, I need you to sponsor that. But yeah.
We're down to the last few minutes of our time together, but so my last
man, it's
question.
quick, man. Quick.
I know it goes when the conversation is good. It goes by really, really quickly, which is a good thing. You never want it to be like, oh snap, we got like 30 minutes and I've gone through all the questions. So my last question to you is you talked about how you've been productive during this time. So what's one thing you've kind of learned about yourself in the last month, I would say, going through this situation?
I have learned how to practice patience, and I have 100% zero patience. And I can tell you, it's not this business that has given me the patience. It's my wife. Having my children, a 2.5-year-old and a newly 5-year-old at home, and seeing her practice grace and patience on them has made me realize that I have to do the same for my staff. I've really learned to calm down a bit through all of this. And I've also learned that, you know what, I can't control any of this. So the only thing that I can do is really focus on what's best for our people, what's best for our business. And by doing that, it's kept me really focused, which is a good thing for me, because I tend to go off on tangent.
Well, I mean, how can people follow you? Because I know that, you have like a lot of interest. You had a lot of Facebook people, probably like the most I've seen from me doing this, where people are just like, I want to tune in. Have people reaching out to me, making sure that they knew how to log in with us today. So,
well, you know, I think
people
that
follow you, and how can people learn more about Casa de Montecristo?
Well, I mean, I'm at Brad R. Winstead on Instagram, so anybody can kind of pop in there and look at that. It's funny, you might see a lot of pictures of my dog, and then some cigars in there, and my beautiful children. But you can do that. But all of our stores individually, you know, if you go to casademontecristo.com, you can see our Instagram. Every store has a page tab on it, and then every store has their own Instagram channel. So if you're engaged in the Tampa or DC or Nashville, New York, New Jersey, the Texas market, up in Michigan, you know, and North Carolina, really, I invite you to follow us as we do some fun stuff on social. I think we do a lot of posting. It's something that we're getting better at. But yeah, check us out on the website, you know, and then everybody has the same Facebook pages as well for the stores. So we look to really engage more the consumer through this avenue, and really look to kind of really understand. When you look back at the learnings from all this, you'll really understand and understand the consumer, right, and understand the consumer behavior. Mm-hmm. And we want to continue the trend. You know, we really want to continue to trend to be successful, you know, and I have to think though before we sign off, I really again I want to thank my staff. My employees are some of the best in the business, and it is truly it's humbling to be a part of this with these guys. I mean, it really is. They've taught me a lot, but I want them to know that we as a business are still here with them. We're here to support them, and we're going to be open again fully very, very soon. So I want to thank them as well.
And I want to thank you, like I said, for carving out an hour out of your day from exploring your humidor as you were describing, and and coming here and sharing your ideas. I know people, I think, really got a lot out of today's, and they've you kind of capped off my week of speaking to retailers specifically for the whole week. But it's really, I think you have a really interesting story, and I look forward to telling it in tobacco business in the near future in some way as well, because I think the retailers need to hear more about what you have to say. So thank you
Oh,
so
well,
much.
thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a great experience. And, I look forward to helping you guys and doing whatever I can. So until next time, I guess they say, right?
Exactly. Hopefully it won't be,
It won't be like this.
hopefully be in person, maybe with a little bit of distance, but hopefully soon. And I look forward to like our next encounter.
Thank you. Hey, have a great weekend. All right.
You too.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.